Biryani is probably one of the best rice dishes in the world, and depending on which part of the world you're from, all versions are authentic. In India alone, we have different versions. For example, Hyderabadi and Bengali biryani are two different styles and both are delicious. Indian biryani is cooked in dum, which means it is cooked by trapping steam. This ensures slow and delicate cooking and traps all the flavor. Start by preparing your chicken. I have half a kilo of a large chicken cut into 6 large pieces. It's traditional to use large pieces on the bone. Meat cooked on the bone has more flavor, and don't even bother to trim the fat off your chicken. Fat is flavor and moisture. To the chicken, add 2/3 cup of yogurt thinned out by 1/4 cup of milk, making it 1 full cup. The acid in the yogurt will tenderize the meat and make it easier for the spices to permeate through and also add moisture. You can use a full cup of yogurt, but I feel that makes the chicken a little bit too acidic. To that, add 1 teaspoon of fresh garlic paste followed by 1 teaspoon of fresh ginger paste, and add salt to taste. But remember, we will season the rice as well, so adjust accordingly. Add half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, half a teaspoon of red chilli powder, which is adjustable depending on your palate. Black pepper according to taste again, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, half a teaspoon of cumin powder, half a teaspoon of Garam Masala powder, which is a spice mix containing anywhere from 15 to 30 different spices like cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, ginger powder, etc. etc. This is easily available in most Indian stores. 1 teaspoon of chicken spice mix, which is optional but does enhance the flavor. I know that's a lot of spices, but a biryani is not exactly a short recipe. It involves lots of ingredients, prep time, steps, and patience. Believe me, if someone goes through the process of making a biryani for you, it's true love. Mix everything thoroughly, cover and marinate in the fridge overnight. The next day, in a large bowl, place 2 cups of basmati rice, which will give you 6 servings. Basmati is the traditional variety of rice to use in biryani for its typical long grains and very fragrant aroma. It also has a low starch content, which means it turns out fluffy as intended. Wash the rice multiple times to remove as much starch as possible. The water in the beginning will be cloudy but will turn translucent with every rinse. I wash my rice 3 times or in multiples of 3. But that's because I'm very low-key OCD. Once your rice is rinsed, you will need to soak it in water for at least 30 minutes or more at room temperature, depending upon the temperature and humidity of the environment, or until your rice swells up and turns completely opaque and white. In a separate bowl, take some saffron, which is famous for being the most expensive spice in the world. Now, if you don't buy saffron regularly, you can be cheated, as the comparatively cheaper ones are coated with synthetic coloring to give it a deeper color and have artificial flavoring. The more genuine ones are the expensive ones and will not give that synthetic orange color or an intense flavor when soaked. It will be more yellowy. It will also be floral but much more subtle. Soak a pinch of saffron in half cup of warm milk and let it sit until needed. Slice 2 large onions and break them up slightly. On a pan on low heat, add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and place the onions with a pinch of salt. This has to be done in low heat, okay? Onions have sugar in them. When heated, the sugars melt and caramelize, making the onions extremely sweet and flavorful. Do not turn the flame up too fast in this process. The sugars will burn and the onions may turn bitter. Keep stirring regularly until you have somewhat uniformly browned the onions, at which point drain them on a kitchen paper and reserve until needed. In a mortar and pestle, place 18 green cardamoms. I know that's a lot of cardamoms, but we have to feed 6 people. Crush them lightly to open up the husks slightly, just enough to facilitate the seeds to come out easily and infuse the rice. To that, add 5 1-inch pieces of cinnamon, 15 cloves and 4 bay leaves. Your infusion spice mix is ready. Soft boil 3 eggs. This is totally optional, but in this part of the country we add eggs to our biryani. Boil 8 cups of water in a large pot and add the rice. Be careful and use a spatula because the water will splash. Add salt and your whole spices. Boil on high for 6 minutes, after which keep checking every 2 minutes. We want the rice 70% cooked, which means it will still be pretty resistant to crush. Remember, it will continue to cook with the residual heat and later steam. overcooked rice is a failed biryani. Once your rice is 70% done, drain immediately, and at this point I would typically infuse the rice with 2 tablespoons of ghee, which is what you should do as well. But today I'm taking this for lunch to my mom's, and my mom does not eat ghee, so I'm skipping the step. This time the chicken would have been marinated enough, so take it out. Put a wok or kadai on medium heat and add 4 tablespoons of oil or ghee, and add in the chicken along with all the marinade. Stir and continue to cook on medium for 6 to 8 minutes, after which the curry will start to separate oil at the edges and the surface. The chicken will start to turn white. Remember that these are pretty huge chunks of chicken, and although we will not cook them fully because they will steam later, you do want to break down the proteins. Cook for another 10 to 15 minutes under cover, stirring occasionally until almost all of the moisture from the yogurt has evaporated and you have something like this. This is also a good time to check the seasoning, as salmonella is dead by now. This actually is very good on its own with some paratha or plain rice, and that's just an idea. Turn off the heat. Stay with me, okay? We are getting close to the end. Now is the moment we all have been waiting for, the final assembly. Take a pot with the heaviest bottom and the thickest wall you own. This retains heat, which is what we intend to do when it comes to dum cooking. Brush the pot with oil or ghee to prevent burning the rice at the bottom. Place 1/3 of your rice in a uniform layer. You can at this point fish out the whole spices, but what my theory is that since we boiled the rice along with the spices for just around 10 minutes, the spices did not have enough time to infuse the rice. Going by that logic, I prefer to keep my whole spices in throughout the entire cook so that they impart maximum flavor to the dish. Carefully layer 3 pieces of chicken on top of your rice. Now choose the biggest pieces and the tougher pieces, meaning like the chicken thigh, because it takes the longest to cook. It's necessary that these pieces should be placed closest to the heat source. This also prevents overcooking the other more delicate pieces like the chicken breast. Drizzle half of your gravy as uniformly as possible. Sprinkle 1/3 of your fried onions over, followed by a few tablespoons of the saffron milk. Repeat the layering process again. Rice, chicken, and this time place your boiled eggs as well. I like soft boiled eggs, but traditionally eggs are hard boiled in this dish. It is your preference. I just think hard boiling yolks loses delicacy and flavor. Layer the onions and then saffron milk. Place your final layer of rice. Rest of the onions and saffron milk. Doesn't that turn you on? Not sexually though, it would be weird. I mean, turn on your appetite. Now time for dum. This is a dough made out of flour and water, which I have rolled into a log and stuck it all around the edge of the pot. On top of that, I am going to place my lid. This is creating dum and trapping that steam and flavor, which is the essence of a dum biryani. And apart from the yogurt, this is what will make the rice and meat moist because it prevents loss of moisture. Place this on the lowest setting on the stove for 25 to 30 minutes. After which, turn off the flame but let it stand over the burner for another 30 minutes, after which it's ready to serve. Prepare yourselves for one of the best aromas you'll ever experience. Serve hot. This is a complete dish. Unlike a pulao, which is dry and you need a curry to go with it, this can be eaten on its own. However, you can serve it with raita to cut through that richness a bit, and papad to add. Because of its cooking technique and the ingredients, this is very moist. The rice is full of flavors. The chicken will be so moist and juicy. This is the reward of your efforts. If you enjoyed this video or my content, please support this channel by subscribing. I tried to condense as much information and detail as possible in this video given the time constraints. The ingredients and quantities are listed below. I have a written recipe on my blog as well in case you prefer reading. This dish is a labor of love. Enjoy it with your loved ones and have fun cooking it. I will talk to you in my next video.